This is Delicious Dignity, where we cultivate a self so potent, so clear, so vital, so truthful, that our life is all the more luscious for it. Let's call ourselves into being, shall we? Hello, lovelies. Today we are going to explore the nature of evil. We're going to contemplate evil. What is evil? What is not evil? What makes evil tick? What are the lies we tell ourselves around evil? And why are we doing this? We're doing this because I think collectively we're just done. We're over pussyfooting around this issue. We're done pretending like evil doesn't exist. We're done spiritually bypassing and pretending that evil can somehow be redeemed. So this episode is special in so many ways. But before we begin, I want to make a few promises to you. I will not soften or romanticize evil. I will not explain it away with trauma work and tell you, oh, this is just evil arises because of trauma, and tell you to be more compassionate or understanding towards evil. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use religious terminology to explain evil. I will use simple everyday terms. I will not use psychology to explain evil. I'm going to explain it in simple everyday terms. I'm not going to use religion or psychology to make you feel like you need to be more understanding, more careful towards evil, because you don't. I will not paint your claws or file down your fangs. What I will do is I will leave you feeling empowered and strong and able to cope in a way that suits you best. I will leave you with gumption and confidence in your own assessments and ability to see the truth behind every interaction. And I will leave you with your claws and your fangs intact. I will even admire your claws and fangs with you. I will leave you clear and I will leave you potent. So just grab your favorite cup of tea or your favorite beverage and come with me on this journey, because this is not going to be a depressing episode. Far from it. If the promises I just gave you are indication of anything, this is going to be the kind of episode that just stabilizes you and grounds you in reality. We're so done bypassing, aren't we? We're just done bypassing as a society. By the way, for those who don't know that word, bypassing just means avoidance. It means trying to go around something. Instead of dealing with it head on, you just do this oopsie daisy and go around it. And so that's what bypassing means. And that's what we're not going to do in this episode. This can be a really deeply soul-affirming episode. So don't be scared of the topic and think that it's somehow going to depress you. It's actually not. Now, I do want to give you context for how this episode came to be. I was reading the Epstein files, and while I started reading the Epstein files, I went into a deep dark hole, and then I tried to climb myself back out of my hole of despair. And as I started crawling out of this hole of despair, I realized something, that this entity, like Epstein, he did not do this alone. He had an entire ecosystem, an entire planet-sized ecosystem of people helping him, from doctors to professors to politicians. And I started to realize just how many people just got away with what they were doing for so long. And when I noticed this, because we keep saying the name Epstein, but we don't realize there's an entire planet around this Epstein individual entity, whatever you want to call him. And when I realized that, I realized, how is it that we got here? How did they get away with it? And the only answer I could come up with is because as a society, we've just become way too accepting, way too tolerant, way too polite, and way more blind to evil, especially little evils. We're blind to the little ones, or we sort of let them go. I can't tell you how many times people tell me, just let it go, just let it go. This is what happens when you let go of little evils. They become big evils. There's this book called The Coddling of the American Mind. Just the title alone is enough to tell you what that's about. But I think we've ended up coddling each other for far too long. And because of that, it has made us incompetent to see evil, handle evil, and address evil when it happens. So that's the context behind how this episode came to be. Now, we need to reclaim the word evil. We need to bring back that word and put it in its rightful place. Because for too long, the word evil was the domain of religion. Only religions knew what evil was. Only religions could tell you what evil was. And they were the ultimate authority on it. And we need to remove the word evil from religious constructs and put it in the place of everyday common sense. Because it is common sense. At the same time, we do need the word evil because we've softened the word with new age terms or with pop psychology terms. We use words like narcissist or traumatized person or person who's just wrong or does bad things, bad person. No, it's not. It's evil. The reason why language is so important because words make us competent or incompetent to handle the things we need to handle. And softening our words makes us incompetent to handle evil. So that's what I want to start with. For me personally, it's been the latter. It's been a combination, actually. I studied way too much psychology. And because of that, I kind of felt obligated to show compassion when actually the opposite would have been more to the point. And then, of course, I studied all the spiritual work, and I would think, oh, we just need to have more love or more light or something. And that never worked. So what I would do is I would silence my voice and think that there was something wrong with me for not being and not feeling compassionate, not being more loving, more nice, more understanding. And here's what's really hard to say, because not only did it make me incapable of handling evil, it made me an unwitting and almost too easy target for it. I became evil's victim. And so this is why I would love to just discuss it and contemplate this with you, because I know so many of you relate to that as well. I want to say, by the way, that you already know what evil is. You truly do. You've just been made to believe that you don't know it, because you've seen evil in jokes and casual disrespect, which is never casual, but it's presented that way. And those moments that made your stomach turn. You spent years being told you were wrong for thinking that way. And really, I hope this episode gives you permission to trust your evil antennas again. And in my spiritual work, almost every spiritual teacher I followed or learned from just refused to address the elephants in the room. They wouldn't talk about politics. They wouldn't talk about social justice. They wouldn't talk about racism, sexism. They wouldn't talk about any of the isms. What they would do is feed me good vibes and told me my intuition would handle it, or somehow that we can transcend this because it's all love and light. And that in of itself, what you're doing is you're creating a society that's compliant. And because I could see this massive elephant in the room, or elephants in the room, I should say, and nobody wanted to talk about it, it just made me feel anxious. And so I didn't want this podcast to make you feel anxious because I'm not addressing something. Because I think we do need to see more teachers, more therapists, more people in helping professions address this. They can address it from their own perspective, but they do need to address it. And then, of course, on the more extreme side of the New Age community, you have mentors telling you that you just need to have good vibes. And if your vibe is really high, then everything will be fine. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I also had teachers who would address it, but then they would go into victim mode and use tools of guilt and shame to guilt and shame everyone around them, including the people that were not truly evil. They were just traumatized people. They were just people that needed a little bit more help and a little bit more understanding. These are the teachers that I would call trigger happy. They would just shoot their gun at whoever and whatever they wanted because they felt like victims and they needed to attack somebody because they didn't feel competent to attack the real people that needed to be controlled or, let's say, silenced. And the sad part about guilt and shame tactics is that actually feeds evil because evil is incapable of feeling guilt and shame. So it requires other people to feel guilt and shame so that it can thrive. When good people feel intense guilt and shame for absolutely no reason or very little justified reason, evil thrives because now you are too weak to handle it. By the way, if you're interested in the whole New Age culture thing and why I left that arena, I mean, I still obviously do a lot of spiritual work, but I've left the New Age side of the house. If you're interested in that, episode 11 is why I left the New Age culture. You can find it on the podcast. And an easy way to find this is to go into the whatever podcast search directory you use, wherever you're listening from. You go into the search bar and you type in Delicious Dignity, New Age culture, and that will pop up with the episode. Okay, so these things of being nice, showing compassion, love it away, do more therapy, do more inner work. Meanwhile, evil just gets the run of the mill. Evil is just feeding and gorging on innocence. Now, here's what no spiritual teacher has ever told you, and I'm going to tell you. Being a good person in the face of evil will likely bring you to indulge it. It will likely bring you all the way around to being a victim to it. So what you do need to be in the face of evil is strong. I want to give you another example. When I first saw Deepak Chopra, the first time I was ever shown his face, the first word that went through my mind was creep. Total creep. The kinds of creeps that I would experience walking on the streets in Bombay sometimes, the way those men would stare at me or catcall me, that kind of creep. And what's so interesting is that the way I first got introduced to him is that he was on this panel of atheists. He was on the panel and like two other atheists were on there. I can't really remember, but because this was 10 years ago when I first came across him, or was it 12? 10 or 12 years ago. His behavior when he was confronted by atheists, he just seemed like a total quack. He didn't know what he was talking about. I knew more than he did. I thought he was foolish. That was the other word that came to my mind, creep and foolish. And whenever I would tell people that I did spiritual work, inevitably they would bring up Deepak Chopra because he's Indian too. And I would get so embarrassed to be associated and be put on the same plane as him. I even remember thinking that maybe I shouldn't do this spirituality stuff because people like him do it. And I thought that made me like him because we are doing the same things. And the funny thing is I never bought his books. I saw that one debate with him and those atheists. I think maybe it was Christopher Hitchens or Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, I can't remember. And he just seemed like a complete idiot on that debate. Because real spirituality, and I remember like almost screaming at the video because I'm like, real spirituality is indeed closer to atheism and closer to science than it is to religion or cults. And so, if anything, that debate should have been him understanding what those atheists were saying and saying, yeah, that's indeed what it is like. So it just seems so foolish to me. And so now to be proven right, so to speak, by the Epstein files, it doesn't feel like the victory that it is. It feels like, why did I doubt myself for as long as I did? Why did I feel ashamed for feeling the way I did? Why did I hide my opinions and how I felt about him whenever people brought him up? Why did I do that? And this is the question I keep asking myself almost all the time when I have confronted evil in a way that I didn't actually confront it. I just sort of submitted to it. I ask myself, why did I not trust myself? So I want you to know this episode, by the way, is not about putting more responsibility on your shoulders. It's not about blaming you for not having more capacity. Most of us did not have a lot of capacity, even though I recognize I didn't have capacity back in the day. And I'm not shaming myself for it. I just want to give you this ability to see that, yes, your energy is being drained. And I want you to know what you can do about it. It's for those who want to develop capacity and also have capacity. It's not about shaming you for not having capacity. And we talked about the false feminine in episode 34 when I did the 2026 energy reading. And the energy reading for 2026 was to identify all the aspects of the false feminine. The false feminine is becoming very obvious that it is false and this was not actually the feminine. And one of the areas now I can take from that I did not anticipate in the energy reading was that the false feminine is this idea that the feminine is this weak, passive little thing, this soft thing. And I'm so sick and tired of so-called spiritual women or woke women asking other women to tune into their feminine and be in the flow and all that crap without showing them how to change the systems around them so that they can feel safe to do so. The feminine is not this weak, passive, soft little thing. And I want you to know that as we identify evil. The feminine has always been the one to stand up to evil. Always. Because no one knows evil better than the feminine. Because for so long, evil has been taught to her as normal, even necessary. And for so long, the feminine has been the recipient of evil. I want to recommend a book here, Caliban and the Witch, that gives you a historical, political, capitalist perspective of how we got to this place in life where you can see how the feminine has evolved and how she's coped with different political structures over time that have basically made her the target. And so I want to say that nobody knows the feminine. Nobody knows evil like the feminine does. So before we finally get into what is evil, I want to say that thank you. I love you for wanting to even listen to this episode. I salute you. I hold you in my heart. Thank you for caring. Thank you for starting to care. Thank you for trying to care. I want to say that every privilege you have today, including water, has been fought for by someone else. You stand on the backs of the people who fought, and now we're here. I stand and we stand on the backs of every feminist who came here. And I know you know this. I know you know in your soul, and I know you cannot ignore the shoulders you stand on. So thank you for not ignoring them. When I did ask my intuition, what is going on right now in the world, what my intuition said is, what you see as evil is the world coming into a balancing act of the highest order. This is the real revelation. This is the ascension. This is the dissolving of lies. This is the great spell finally popping. Ascension happens when evil is known and dealt with. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I just love that statement. Okay. So what is evil? Now we finally get to this topic. Now, these are my observations, obviously, and my observations might be different from yours. And I understand that. But my hope in sharing this with you is that you never doubt yourself again and you have confidence in your assessments, because even if your observations might be slightly different, they're probably not going to be very different. Okay, so here is what I will define evil as for you in plain, simple English. Evil is acts or people who delight in the suffering, trauma, and indignity of others for no other reason other than the pleasure of it and the power they think it gives them. They delight in the suffering, trauma, and indignity. Okay, so that's an important thing for you to know. They are delighted. They are pleasured by the suffering and the trauma of what they cause other people. Evil is people who intentionally use their privilege of power to hurt others and delight and benefit from it. Evil will actively seek out those who are politically or socially weaker than them and prey on them for a hit for the joy of superiority. These are people who love the master-slave dynamic. They revel in it. Equality isn't even a factor in their life. They don't even understand equality. They don't even think it's necessary. They have no respect for it. They have no love for it. It's all about the master-slave dynamic. Evil is a special kind of predator who feeds off suffering. Suffering, especially causing suffering, is the food that nourishes evil. Another way to say this is causing suffering is the cocaine that evil snorts. Now, evil itself, despite what you might see in the media, evil itself does not have a set gender. In the media, though, it seems like there's a specific gender that's its fan base. Now, it might seem that way, but I do think that all genders have used evil. It's just that with some genders, the evil is more covert. It's more manipulative than it is overt and aggressive and dominating. As much as possible, maybe separate gender and evil, because what we don't want to do is ignore covert evil. We don't want to ignore the evil that's manipulative. even if it's not aggressive. Okay? Evil is entitlement. It's entitlement to people's energy, people's time, money, to the planet, to water, to food. There's an entitlement to the life of things. Everyone and everything's life is something that evil feels entitled to. It's back to that master-servant dynamic. The thing about evil is that it always seeks to control, not understand, not love, not accept, not tolerate. It's always about power over and the suffering that it causes. Evil in one word is violation. That's it. A synonym for evil is violation. Evil is about causing indignity. And it's so funny because when I was writing this episode down, I wrote that line, evil is about causing indignity. And I realized that the whole subtle, secret intention of the Delicious Dignity podcast was about handling evil. And I didn't even realize that until I wrote this line. And it just hit me. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'm basically doing a podcast for people to be strong in the face of evil. Evil has no remorse other than being caught or defending its position of superiority. So evil has no regrets. There's no sense of self-reflection with evil. It's just being caught. Evil is not repelled by light, like some religions will tell you. It's actually attracted to light because it attracts itself to light and it delights in twisting light to become evil. From what I have seen of evil, it's always, how do I want to say this? It's not scared of light. It almost delights in going towards the light so it can twist it. It can, I think maybe the Christian religion would say things like the temptation of evil or whatever. The devil tempts you. And like I said, I'm not going to go into religion because that's not the point of this. But there is this thing about evil people and evil acts that it delights in ruining innocence. And innocence is light. I'm not talking naivety. I'm talking innocence, purity, beauty, goodness, love in the world. It delights in being attracted to it, catching it, and then twisting it. So this idea that you can love and light evil away is actually false. Unless, of course, by love and light, you mean the strength of your character, your chutzpah, your backbone. Okay, so now that we've established what evil is, I want to also tell you what evil is not. Evil acts might have come from trauma. Maybe have come from trauma. But that is irrelevant. The origin is irrelevant. The stopping of the evil is what is relevant. Trauma does not excuse repeated, consistent, active periods of evil. Evil is not synonymous with traumatized individuals or narcissism or whatever you want to call it. Traumatized individuals and narcissists might be part of evil, but it is not synonymous with it. Trauma does cause people to act badly. I know that, you know that, we've all been traumatized and we've all seen how we've acted badly. But the thing is, we have remorse. We have a desire to stop. We have some guilt, some shame. And often we have disproportionate levels of shame and guilt that we punish ourselves. Because what we have inherently inside of us is a sense of justice and goodness. We do not delight in hurting people. Traumatized people do not delight in hurting people. They only act badly to protect themselves from being hurt. Do you see? It's not the same. Someone acting badly is not the same as someone being evil. Because first of all, there's no desire, there's no delight in hurting people. There's just a desire to protect themselves from harm. So while we maybe don't need to be judging people, this is how we can discern what's really going on. I want to also say that the police, the justice system, religion, the government are not solely responsible for stopping evil. Individuals in society are responsible. We cannot institutionalize justice. And I think that's part of the problem in humanity. We've institutionalized justice. Justice is a universal truth, and it is not something that only authorities have control of. Putting a stop to evil may require an act of what people have socially considered to be evil, but it is in fact not evil, because the correct response to evil is to stop it by any means necessary and appropriate to the context in which it sits. So whether that means stopping it in a conversation, physically stopping it from happening in real time, maybe it is jail time, or maybe it's something else. To stop evil is the highest act of love there is. That is the true love and light. Evil is not about demons and nasty energies. You may encounter those, and that's not the scope of this episode. It's really not about demons and nasty energies, because the way you handle normal evil is actually directly related to how you can handle the non-human variety. It's like, if you can't handle the human variety, you're not going to be able to handle the non-human variety. And again, not the point of this episode, but to make evil just about demons and nasty energies is silly. It's so much more than that. And the last part is, evil is not a one-off act. Evil is frequent. It's a pattern over time. It's repeated over and over again. And it's a cluster. It's a cluster of things. That's why I'm saying, like, it's just so beautiful that the unintended consequence of me doing this podcast was about this. And I just love that. Here's where this might sting some of you, because I want to talk about the number one tool of evil. The number one tool of evil is rape. Because rape is about control. It's about causing suffering. It's about delighting in suffering and superiority. And I'm not talking just about physical rape. I'm talking about mental rape, psychic rape, emotional rape, spiritual rape. Because rape is about violation. So if you want to ever identify the address of evil, look for the rapists, look for the pedophiles, look for the rape jokes, look for rape culture. Look for the ignoring of everyday acts of mental, emotional, and spiritual violation. And that is where you will see evil. Look for that in your conversations. Look for that subtle way that the auntie will put down the young girl from expressing her needs because she's being too much. You ever seen that? That's a rape. It's about trying to feel better about yourself by putting somebody else down, which is a form of delighting in suffering and superiority, which is why a sub-tool of this rape that evil uses is performative niceness and focusing effort on lowering of guards. So it tries to lower your guard because it's trying to encourage you to betray yourself, abandon yourself. This is why, here's an example, when people don't give you space, when they don't respect your boundaries, and I'm not saying it's because you've established many boundaries and people can't possibly match it. I mean, simple boundaries, simple needs that you have. Evil will tell you to betray them. It will tell you to abandon them. This is the covert manipulation when outright violation is not possible. This is another form of rape. This is a psychic rape. The encouraging you to betray yourself and abandon yourself. This is the guy that gives a woman too many drinks at the bar, getting her drunk and then taking her home. It's not overt, but it's the encouraging of self-betrayal and self-abandonment. That too is rape. This is when society teaches girls to be nice instead of kind. Because when you encourage people to be nice, you're basically saying, consider everybody else's feelings, consider what society deems as appropriate, and behave and perform accordingly. To conclude this episode, I want to just outright tell you a couple of lies that we have believed about evil that we need to not believe in anymore. So lie number 1, evil has to do with morality or religion or not being nice. And you can just love evil away. In fact, if you are loving, all evil will just disappear. I just have to love harder. That's the lie. The truth is, it has nothing to do with any of that. It has more to do with common sense and inherent divinity. We are not people who need to be told what evil is, or be told that we need to be nice, or be told by any morality or religion. We are people who have to be told that we know what evil is already. It is our common sense. It's our basic instinct as humans. You've always known. You've just been taught to think you're wrong for thinking that way, or that you're too stuck up, or that you're not relaxed enough, or you have high standards or something. You've seen evil, even in casual encounters. You just tried to stuff it down. You were brainwashed to show compassion when you should have had claws. This is part of the de-wilding, the civilizing of people that got them to lose their common sense and instinct. And I'm saying that evil is an instinct. You do not need to be taught what it is. You just need permission to trust your senses. And another question you can ask yourself when you confront evil, is this just regular ignorance, or is this evil? Love your neighbor. Love them hard. Love your friends and your community harder. But don't love evil. Squash it immediately and expeditiously. Expeditiously. I love that word. Lie number 2. Evil is about doing the wrong thing or the bad thing. And we covered this, but just to summarize it, wrong is not the same as evil. You can blame it on psychology or biology all you want, but it is evil. It is not a spectrum. It simply is, or it isn't. Wrong or ignorance is people who act from trauma or sadness. They're depressed, they're negative, they're just silly, or they're ignorant. Evil is people who enjoy and delight in the suffering they intentionally cause others. There is no opposite of evil. There is no good versus evil. Evil just is what it is. Violence is a spectrum, but evil is not. Lie number 3 is that evil is special and rare. And the truth is, evil is mundane and it is everywhere. There is a term coined by the philosopher Hannah Arendt, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in her book, The Eichmann in Jerusalem. And basically, she was analyzing how evil became so mundane. She was studying, I think it was Nazis in Germany. And she was saying, and I think she was in the courtroom wondering how these people just are not even aware of the consequences of their actions. And so she coined the term the banality of evil, meaning the commonplace or the routine nature of evil acts. And these are just people that just don't even think about the consequences of their actions and how mundane evil is. It's not this exceptional thing that's done by exceptional people, by psychopaths and sociopaths, etc. No, it's actually quite mundane. And this is something actually I did not touch upon, is that one of the things that evil is that evil does not have any capacity or feels any need to self-reflect. Self-reflection is just not a thing in its vocabulary. Where I see this more commonplace, I see this in corporate America. In the corporate America parties. Every single person that's worked in corporate America knows exactly what I'm talking about. The casual disrespect, the kind of flirting with younger women and touching inappropriately and all of those things, those happens in those parties. And it's completely mundane. It's completely commonplace. And finally, lie number 4 is, I need to protect myself from evil, and being a good person will do that. The truth is that being a good person in the face of evil will likely bring you to indulge it or be its victim. What you need to be is a strong person. Just stop trying to be good. You are a good person. You don't have to try to be. This is about being a strong person. Now, how do we build that strength and that capacity is another episode. This episode was just about identifying evil, getting right with evil. For all the reasons above, this is why you can't love and light it away. I'm really glad we explored these aspects of evil. Please tell me what you think and how this landed with you, because this is such a deep and rich and intense topic. I really want to see how you digested it and what you think and what your experiences of evil have been. And you can do that by clicking on the link in the episode description. There's a way to send me a text message, and I don't get to see your number. You just send me a text and I can see your comments and I can respond to them in another episode. Or if you prefer, you can head over to Delicious Dignity, my Instagram account, and message me there. And like I said in another episode, we'll go over how to be strong in the face of evil. I hope I've kept my promises to you. I did not soften or romanticize evil. I did not tell you about psychology and religion as an excuse for you to be more compassionate or understanding towards evil. And I did not paint your claws and file down your fangs. I admired them with you. So for this one, I have 2 blessings for you, if you would like them. May you get right with evil so you can be strong in your good. Oh, I want to say that again. That felt lovely. May you get right with evil so you can be strong in your good. May your claws and your fangs be the instrument of your dignity when necessary. May your claws and your fangs be the instrument of your dignity when necessary. Much love to you. Thank you again for wanting to listen to this, for wanting to know more about this. Thank you for not forgetting the shoulders we stand on. Much, much, much love to you, darling. Okay, until next time. Bye.